Right, 10 March 2020, and today I want to look at the events in the MDC. This has probably been the worst week for Nelson Chamisa in the MDC. There has been a lot of bad publicity around the MDC, around events that have been occurring. Firstly, I want to say Nelson Chamisa has reached a point where too many things are happening at the same time, and his leadership is now being tested. His popularity in the party, in the MDC, is no longer where it was last year. So if you look at what happened last week, it is clear that there is probably two distinct factions that are coming out in the MDC, and these factions are being supported by leaders that are surrounding Nelson Chamisa. So these are not just people that are coming from nowhere. These are people right within the leadership structure of Nelson Chamisa. So I'm talking here about the vice presidency and the chairmanship. So there were two key events that happened last week. I'm not talking here about the murder of a young MDC activist in Masvingo. That issue has still not been handled. There's still not been a statement from the MDC. So that's one of the bad things that happened. But there were two key criticisms of Nelson Chamisa, public criticisms. The first one by Job Scala, and then the second one by Freeman Chari. These two guys are very influential within the MDC. If you look at Job Scala, he's on the ground. He does a lot. If you look at Freeman Chari, he does a lot. He's very respected in the diaspora. If Freeman Chari criticizes you, you know that you have to think about it twice. You cannot just dismiss Freeman Chari and say, this is a guy who's talking. So let's look first at what happened with Freeman Chari. Freeman Chari put out a number of tweets in which he laid out the problems with the membership registers, with the cards, the membership cards in the MDC. We published that last week, and he is very unhappy that nothing has happened ever since the time of Morgan Tsvangirai, when he proposed this project, when he funded some of it, and when he gave these proposals to the current leaders of the MDC. So that was a direct criticism on Nelson Chamisa. Then if you look at Job Scala gave Nelson Chamisa an ultimatum. He said at the moment, decisions on mass actions are being made as a party. They are not being made individually. So he has to toe the line. But there is coming a time very soon when he's just going to go by himself. So that was Job Scala talking on an interview here. I think it was with Blessed Mhlanga, where he said he's getting fed up with the lack of action from Nelson Chamisa. And you can listen to that interview. We posted it again last week. Then we also had some criticism of Nelson Chamisa from Douglas Monzora, very, very public on Twitter, about the values of the MDC, about focusing on the individuals, on an individual. That resulted in a suspension or a letter from Charlton Wende to Douglas Monzora, telling him not to discuss party issues in public. So that was another bad piece of PR for the MDC. Then we had Morgan Komichi resigning. So this follows on the resignation of Bress Quinje. Now we have two very senior people in the MDC resigning. And I think, I can be wrong, but I think that the letter that was written and circulated in public, which the MDC turned out and said was fake, was actually generated from within the MDC. People in the leadership of Nelson Chamisa are openly trying to discredit him in public. They're trying to put out the narrative that he's focusing everything on himself as an individual, not as a party. So that letter which came out made the MDC look very, very bad. There was also information that Tabitha Kumalo refused to write a letter to Douglas Monzora warning him for talking about the MDC in public. So that letter, it gave a very bad image of the MDC. It did not look, it looked like a disciplinary action being taken by Charlton Wende without giving Douglas Munzora a chance to respond. So, as I said, there are two distinct factions that are coming out in the MDC. There is a faction of people who were originally in the MDC, people who were close to Morgan Tsvangirai. They are saying, Nelson Chamisa, this is not how the party was. The party is not improving, the party is not growing, things are not going right, and you're not listening. This is the first faction. Then there's a second faction made up of youths who say Nelson Chamisa is our best foot forward. We must support Nelson Chamisa, whatever he does, even if he makes mistakes, we must support him. There is that group which is made up of younger people who want to get positions. So most of the people around Nelson Chamisa, the younger guys, I've analyzed it and realized that they're more interested in positions. They are interested in taking over from the older guard. So if you look at the people who support Nelson Chamisa a lot, most of them have got ambitions to become something in the MDC. Whereas the people who are opposing Nelson Chamisa, they already have positions in the MDC. They are probably eyeing the presidency. And there are some very quiet people who I think they are just hoping the situation gets worse and worse. They will probably benefit more if they don't say anything. Now, there's also the issue of Douglas Munzora. The leaked Supreme Court ruling, which the MDC is reported to have lost, is also bringing pressure in the MDC. People don't know what will happen if an extraordinary Congress is called or is forced by the Supreme Court ruling. So Munzora is now becoming a target. People want to force him to reveal what he's going to do if that situation arises, if an extraordinary Congress is called. Because immediately that ruling is put out, Munzora will be the key man in the MDC. Now, where we are now, the MDC has been very, very weakened. The MDC we have now is very, very weak. They are no longer focused on programs. So the internal focus of the MDC is causing all these, the problems that we're seeing now. Because there are so many things happening internally, the MDC cannot think about how do we engage the public, how do we prepare for the election in 2023. Everything is about internal. And this is not where the party should be. The party should be out there growing. But at the moment, it's not. So the MDC is unlikely to win the elections in 2023. If this continues, if the situation continues as it is right now, in 2023, Nelson Chamisa is going to get way less number of votes than he got in 2018. This is a very serious problem. Nelson Chamisa should focus on this. So the two things that I see Nelson Chamisa needing to do is, firstly, as I said, focus on the 2023 election. He must start uniting the opposition. And I'm not talking people in the MDC. I'm talking about the whole opposition in Zimbabwe. If you want to see change in Zimbabwe, you must understand that Nelson Chamisa, although he's popular in the cities, he's not popular in the rural areas. So he needs to get every vote that he can in the cities, so that when the time comes to go to the rural areas, he stands a chance. If he gets to a point where there's apathy in the urban areas, he is not going to win in 2023. This is where the focus should be. Every person in town should come out and vote for Nelson Chamisa. And to do that, you need to be organized, you need to have funding, you need to have a good membership register, you need to reduce the noise that we're currently seeing in the MDC at the moment. So, as I said, he needs to work on uniting the opposition. It's a painful thing. He needs to humble himself. He needs to talk to everybody. And then he needs to make the MDC an efficient machine. The issues that Freeman Chari is raising, they are not playful issues. They are serious issues. There's also the issue of Jonathan Moyo. What is his role in the MDC? He's causing a lot of disruption. He's a very disruptive individual. He's smart, but is he adding value to the MDC? So Nelson Chamisa needs to make a decision. If Jonathan Moy wants to be part of the MDC, he must come out and become a member. You cannot just support Nelson Chamisa only and say, I'm not an MDC member. So he has to make a choice. He must say, now I'm a member of the MDC, and he must be given a position if there's need, so that this situation is resolved way before the elections. Now, I want to end by saying Nelson Chamisa, last year in 2019, he came up with a plan of working on the strategy, structure, and culture. I talked about this a lot last year. This was one of the best plans that Nelson Chamisa has came up with. Of all the things that he has announced, this was direct and actionable. But Nelson Chamisa seems to have forgotten about that plan. Working on the strategy, structure, and culture. What is the strategy of the MDC? Where are we now? Where do we want to go? What do we need to do it? What kind of people do we need to have in place to do that? Who are our external enemies? Who are our internal strengths? You know, those kind of things. That is your strategy. Your structure. The 3 vice presidents. Do we need these 3 vice presidents? What are their roles? What is Watchman doing? What is Tendai Biti doing? What is Kareni Kore doing? Those are the structural issues. The culture. What should the MDC be doing? How do we treat each other in the MDC? We saw that death of the young man this weekend in Masvingo. Is that our culture? Is that the culture of the MDC? These are the kind of things that Nelson Chamisa should be working on. So there's also a need to focus on priorities. What things need to be done now, and how do these things need to be done? How do we measure our progress? At the moment, the MDC is not where it's supposed to be. And this is what everybody's crying about. All this factionalism, all this playing around with internal fights is not benefiting Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe needs change, and MDC is the best option. In fact, it's the only option. Nelson Chamisa is the only threat to Idi Mnangagwa or whoever else. So, given this chance, this trust that the people have given him, I don't see why Nelson Chamisa does not work harder to overcome these problems. But as I said, this has been the worst week. And you can see from this newspaper, this is one of the papers that came out this week. MDC heavies bay for Chamisa's blood. So this is not something we're making up. There is a lot of bad headlines about the MDC this week, and this needs to change. We need to see some good headlines coming out of the MDC. So the question that I asked is Nelson Chamisa failing to unite the MDC? I think at the moment he's not managing. He needs to do better in uniting the MDC. Right, thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this on WhatsApp, please send to as many people as possible. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, please like, comment, and share.